yesterday evening, while I was just kind of laying in bed thinking about what am I gonna do in terms of purchasing new cattle, I remembered this app that I had on my phone a long time ago called Square. And I was like, I remember I used to be able to put credit card information on it and take credit card payments on it. And so yesterday I installed it, and this morning when I woke up I had it installed. When I looked at my phone and then I looked at it, I am able to turn my credit card, I am able to turn my credit lines into cash for a 3.5% fee. So I am able, if I well, because bringing in animals, right, like going in and investing tens of thousands of dollars, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of planning. It's not just like I wake up one day, pop open a beer and go and buy 50 animals, right? That's not how the world works. It takes weeks, months of planning. It takes a lot of planning. I don't just wake up one day and go and buy a whole bunch of animals. That's not how it works. I mean, if I did that, it would probably be pretty problematic, right? I mean, I would probably mess it up. And so these things take a lot of planning. Like if I'm gonna go and do something and it's gonna make me tens of thousands of dollars, like I'm gonna make $12,000 a month, it doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of planning and it takes a lot of careful consideration. And so this morning, I was taking a look at these things, and I can turn my my credit into cash by paying a 3.5% fee. So essentially, if I paid about $850, it's like $840.45. I can turn my my credit into cash. So I can turn my $28,000 of credit into cash, and then I can actually go and purchase these animals and I think that these animals are the animals that just because these animals right here, the previous owner of these animals blood tests all of his animals for any sort of a major but persistently infectious virus. And so when these animals are young, he will blood test his animals. And so I know that with the animals that I am getting are 100% BVD free. I don't really have to worry about any sort of major persistently infectious virus. I know that they've been these animals, when I brought them in, they were a little bit small, but I mean that's okay. Something like that is something I can just work through. But they ate very well. I didn't have any problems with them getting onto feed or anything like that. I didn't have to really do anything too drastic to get them to start eating. And so these Black Angus heifers, I may just go ahead and buy 50 of them. He's got 50 of them. I may just I'm gonna ask him, because I don't know if he's still got all 50 of them. These calves, he may have sold them already, but I'll have to call him and ask and see if I can put a hold on it for about just one more week. And if he lets me, I will purchase it. If he still has them, I would be willing to purchase all of them. But yesterday I got my check. I got my check for the sale barn, and I made $6,400. But I kind of made a little bit of a mistake, or I didn't make a mistake. When I looked at that check and I looked at my animal weights, I had a moment where I was like, okay, I could have done things a little bit differently, and this would have probably been a $7,000 check. But one of the things that I had influence over that I could have done was that my animals, my Brangus animal and my heifer only came in at 740 pounds. And a little guy came in at 835, and my black white face came in at 805. And so I could have held on to them for 3 more weeks. And if I had just held on to them for 3 more weeks, that $6,400 check could have been a $7,000 check, just because I would have put more weight on these animals. They were a little bit light. The animals that I took to the market this time, they were lighter than what I normally take them to the market at. And if my Brangus animal had just put on another 70 pounds, that would have been about another, probably about another 175 bucks that I would have gotten on him. If my heifer had just put on another 75 pounds, I would have probably made another 150 bucks on her. And if my black white face animal had put on another 70 pounds, I would have probably made another 170, etc., right? If I had just held on to my animals for 3 more weeks, I would have probably made $7,000, but I ended up making $6,400. But as I was looking through, one of the things that I did not have, I did not anticipate was that little guy actually sold for the least amount. But I kind of recognized this with little guy. When I looked at little guy, I was having a very, very, very difficult time putting fat on the animal. The animal, when I looked at him and I kept walking over there and looking at him, I just kept realizing that he was not putting on fat. He was just very lean. He almost looked like a horse. And he was just very muscular and very lean. And I would feed him corn, just constantly feed him corn, feed him corn, feed him corn. And he just did not get fat. He loved eating corn and he ate a lot of corn, but he just did not get fat. And I was having a lot of difficulty putting fat on him. And I was recognizing that, and I was realizing that it's this animal is very lean and he's just not putting on fat. But I only ended up getting $2 a pound on him. And my black white-faced animal, I ended up getting I believe it was $227.50 or something like that. So I ended up getting a good bit more for my black white-faced animal. My black white-faced animal, I had a feeling that I was gonna make a lot of money on him just because he is a black white-faced animal and he looked real good. And my Brangus animal only came in at 735 pounds or something like that. And I got like 216, 217 a pound on him. And the feeder cattle market was down pretty substantially, so, but it's okay. You know, little guy, last year, I bought him about a year ago from today. I bought him in about this time last year, maybe about 1 month earlier, maybe about September. And he was a 6-week-old little calf, and his mama had died. And so the farmer had found that calf just walking around the field by himself. And he found the dead mama cow, and he didn't want to have to he knew, I mean, the farmer just kind of, you know, he didn't want to have to take care of that animal, and if he left him out on that field, it would have probably died. And so he just sold it. And I bought that animal for 250 bucks. A little 150-pound calf. I bought him for 250 bucks, and I sold him last week for about 1,700 bucks. But most of these animals, as long as I get the conditioning on them just about a little bit right, and their body is just about what they should be, you know, as long as their body work, their frame and all that is just about where it is, just about okay. On average, I make about $1,600 to $1,900 an animal. Usually, I'll end up at about $1,750 an animal. Like yesterday on that black white-faced animal, I think I made close to $1,900 on him. But I make $1,900. A lot of my animals bring in $1,900. A lot of my animals, if I bring in under $1,600, it's kind of like, dang, I wonder what happened, or I knew that was gonna happen. Like if I take a real plain animal. But most of these animals, I'll bring in about $1,750 right now. I would say somewhere between $1,600 to $1,900. And every once in a while, like one time, those 3 red steers that I took, they brought in $2,100 each. And then one of them, well, that check was like a $7,600 check after commissions. And so it was like $8 grand. I made like $8,000 on those 4 animals. But I had to pay about $400 in commissions. And so I made like $7,600 on those 4. But most of these animals, and these Angus heifers, animals like this, if I can get 50 of them from the same ranch, I'd be willing to buy them. They may be a little, you know, I got a little bit of a small, like this little small animal walking around right here. She kind of small, but that ain't the end of the world, right? I mean, it's okay. It's all right. It's all right. I got a few big ones. I got a big one in there too, and so I guess it all just is what it is, right? It just kind of evens out. But I really only got one real small one, and then I got one with the white patch on her gut. But these animals, if they're too lean, they're not going to do very well at market. I was having a lot of difficulty putting fat on little guy, and then I only ended up getting $2 a pound on him. But it's okay. It still turned out to be about 1,700 bucks, $1,670 or something like that. But these black Angus heifers, they're already starting to put on a little bit of fat. They're small, and they're already starting to put on fat noticeably, so that's very good. that is kind of what I would anticipate with the Angus breed. The Angus breed is known for putting on a high quality beef. And so like this animal right here, you can tell she's small, but she's still kind of fat. This animal right here next to her is kind of small, but kind of fat. And so these animals, they're already starting to put on fat. I can already see it. I don't even have to go up to them and feel their back or nothing like that. But I only got 2 bales of hay left too. I only got 2 bales of this hay left, and I'm trying to figure out what should I do. Should I bring in more soybean hay? I gotta figure that out. What am I gonna do? I probably won't have grass growing for about another 2 days, but here pretty soon I would think my grass is starting to germinate as of right now. I've got a lot of moisture in the field. The field is completely saturated with water. But right now, you know, because I would rather, you know, like if I know that I can get 50 of these animals here, and these animals, they've all had their blood work done, and they've all been tested for persistently infectious viruses and stuff like that, and they've all been given immunization shots, and they're weaned properly, and they go on feed when I bring them in. You know, even if I have to pay the price for them, you know, I'd be willing to pay. The man wants $750 an animal, and right now that ain't bad at all, right? That ain't bad at all. I'd be willing to pay it, but I'd want to go and look at them and make sure that they are what he's listed them at. But I think it'll be okay. But I mean, I'd be willing to go and look. But I would rather buy these animals for, you know, I could get steers for $750 an animal, but them steers, I don't know where they come from. You know, I don't know whose ranch they came from. I don't know anything about them. I don't know what's going on with them. But these Black Angus heifers, I've been to the man's farm before, and these animals, when I brought them in, they started growing real well. I didn't have much problems with them. I did have to give 2 of them antibiotics, but you know, I mean that's kind of just something that's you know, it's just gonna be one of those things. Cattle, you know, especially when they're when they're real young, you know, when they're 350 pounds and stuff like that, and they're real young, and they get pulled off their mama cow, chances are that you got to keep a real good eye on them. Even people, right? If you get them off of milk, you know, you gotta make absolute sure that little human being is able to eat food, right? Because if they're cut from drinking milk and they can't eat food, they're gonna have a lot of problems. And it's the same way with the cattle. When they're that small, if they get cut off of milk, you gotta absolutely make sure that the food that is going into their mouth is very good quality food, and it's been well maintained for, and all that. And it's been you know, you got to know what you're feeding them. You can't just feed a little baby some mashed potatoes and steak, right? You can't just give them that stuff. You got to like give them like, I don't know what they feed babies. Maybe like food purees or stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You got to give them the good stuff. You got to make sure that you know what's going into them. You can't just give them grown food, because chances are they're not going to make it. They won't be able to chew it, all sorts of stuff. But these little Black Angus heifers, I like them. I really thought about it, and I was like, you know what? He may have given me a real small animal. You see how small this animal is right here? He may have given me a real small one. But in terms of the animal itself, I like the animal. I like the animal, and I like that they got on feed right when they got here. I did have to give a third of them a shot of antibiotics, but it was also real hot and real dry when I brought them in, and there was a lot of dust up in the air, and it was very just kind of stressful, because there were big animals all around them, and so you know, it wasn't like it was just them coming in. There were a lot of big animals, and so I did find a way to turn my credit into cash, and if I could turn my credit into cash, I can just you know, I'm kind of leaning towards just purchasing these Black Angus heifers again, and I'll just buy 50 of them from the same man. But that's it from me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.